Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse, and it is my great pleasure to bring you a revolutionary diet-free way to totally transform your body. We have Jon Gabriel with us from Australia, the founder of the Gabriel Method and the author of the book, The Gabriel Method. He has lost 220 pounds without dieting and surgery, and amazingly, he has no sign of ever having been obese. He's a former bond trader. He has pursued extensive coursework in biochemistry, organic chemistry, and biology, and performed research for an internationally renowned biochemist, Dr. Jose Rabinowitz. He had a financial career that was incredible and left it to take on transforming the world in the area of health and wellness. And actually, he is going to share with us today how, in fact, the body is amazingly intelligent, and how, in fact, for many of us who are overweight or overfat, there's something the body's telling us that it wants to be that way. I want to understand it better. I've taken many notes on the book. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jon Gabriel to It's Rainmaking Time. Good day, sir. Thank you very much for being here.
Kim, how are you? I'm very happy to be here.
220 pounds, my God, and you didn't diet. I love it.
Well, I tried dieting. This is the thing. I tried dieting for years, and the more I dieted, the more I gained. And because it wasn't always like it, there was a time when I was just naturally thin, and this was back in the early 90s, and I was just 180 pounds. And then I moved to New York, and I started gaining weight. And when I started gaining weight, I started dieting. But every diet I went on always followed the same kind of pattern. I'd lose about 5 or 10 kilos or pounds. It'd be a whole list of things you can't have, right? You know, no wheat, no sugar, no fat, whatever it was. I'd follow the diet to the letter. I'd lose weight, because you can lose weight, at least in the short term, through dieting. But then I'd come to the place where I wasn't losing weight anymore. And I don't know if you've experienced this ever, if you've ever been a dieter, but what happens is you lose weight, and then you're still dieting, but you're not losing weight.
I was a tournament tennis player that was on thyroid since I was 12, and I went up and down on my weight my whole life. And the reality is that I've been on many of the diets and trained before, and I still can't figure it out. I'm on anti-aging stuff. I'm really into the anti-aging. I'm heavily involved in it. I take all the stuff you're supposed to take. I walk 45 minutes a day. But my story is not a big deal. This is many people's lives who, for some reason, cannot keep their weight down.
Well, this was my experience, and I'd lose 5 pounds, and then I'd be fighting cravings left and right. I'm dieting. I'm not losing weight anymore. And then I'd have this big binge. And then I'd gain that weight back in like 2 days, weight that took me weeks to get off. And then I'd be 5 or 10 pounds heavier than when I even started the diet just a couple of days later. And so I sort of dieted my way up to actually having gained over 200 pounds. And what was interesting about my situation, is that there was a time when I never had to worry about weight, and now here I am. No matter what I'm doing, I'm gaining weight, and I'm really trying to lose weight. And the more I'm dieting, the more I'm gaining. And so this went on for about 11 years, and I gained over 200 pounds. And I came to a place where I decided that I was never going to diet again. That if I had to live the rest of my life, and this was when I was over 400 pounds, fine, I don't care. I'm just never going to diet again. I realized that for whatever reason, my body wanted to be fat. And as long as it wanted to be fat, there was nothing I could do to stop it. And that was a real turning point for me. And when I made that realization, I decided that rather than diet, I was going to try to figure out why my body wanted to be fat in the first place and what I could do to get it to want to be thin again, the way it used to be.
How did you find out about the fat programs as you articulate them?
Well, you know what? I went to the University of Pennsylvania, where I actually went to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania back in the 80s. But I was studying a lot of biochemistry because I was thinking of going to med school, and I was studying anthropology. And so I had a kind of a good foundation in biochemistry and anthropology. And that gave me enough of a foundation to go and do the research on the internet. And based on my own understanding from anthropology and survival, human evolution and things like that, I realized that fat had to have a purpose. I sort of asked myself, what's the purpose of fat? And in today's world, there's really no purpose to fat, right? We don't need fat. But there was a time when thousands of years ago, and we all know this, thousands of years ago, we were living outdoors, and we didn't know when our next meal was coming from. And in a time like that, fat can be key to survival, because let's say you're heading into winter, and it's cold, and you're living outdoors. Well, if you've got a little bit of extra weight on you when you're heading into winter, when it's cold, the fat kind of protects you and keeps you warm. It also is energy that you can live off of when there's not enough to eat. And when it's winter time, if you're living outdoors, it's usually like a famine, because you can't fish. The lakes are frozen. There's no fruit on the trees. The animals are hibernating. It's really tough to eat. So surviving through a situation like that is a real stress to your body. And in those situations, what happens is, and this is when I realized this, I've started studying that stress. I studied the stress of starvation and all the chemical changes that take place in the body when you're in a state of starvation. And what I learned is that when you're in a famine or a state of starvation like that, it causes stress to your body. It causes certain chemistry that activates this whole chain of events in your body that activate what I call the fat programs. And what happens in effect is that you're hungrier, you crave more fattening foods, your metabolism slows down, and your body becomes very efficient at storing fat. So you kind of become a fat storage machine. And this is really to survive these famines. Now, today we don't have famines, but this is the really interesting part, and this is what I learned from my research, is that sometimes the stresses in our lives cause the exact same chemistry in our body as a famine, and our bodies get tricked into activating these fat programs. And there's a whole list of stresses that can be physical, mental, or emotional that activate these fat programs. And guess what? Dieting activates these fat programs, because dieting is mimicking a famine. And sure, you can lose weight in the short term by dieting, but when you activate these fat programs, your body wants to be fat for survival reasons. Your body's basically saying, hey, we're starving, and if we starve, we're going to die. So your body does everything it can to try to hold on to weight. Now, dieting causes your body to want to hold on to weight. So you lose weight in the short term, but it gets your body to want to be fatter. So in a sense, you become at war with your body. And you can fight cravings in the short term for a while, but you can control the types of foods that you eat for a while, or how much you eat, but you can't control how hungry you are. And you can't control the types of foods you're craving. That's the domain of the body. And when the body wants to fight you, it'll fight you 24/7, and I lived through this. And it'll make you hungry for the most fattening foods, and it'll make you want to eat, and it'll slow your metabolism so that you hate exercise, and all the extra weight, all the extra food that you're eating gets stored in your fat cells because you become very efficient at storing fat. This is a survival program. So what I did was, rather than fight this survival program, which I got the gist of after years and years of banging my head against the wall, I decided to understand everything I could about this survival program and how to turn it off. What turns it on and how to turn it off. And once you turn it off, then your body doesn't want to be fat anymore. You're no longer at war with your body, and the weight comes off in a more natural way. Yes, you're not dieting, and it's true today I'm not dieting, and I lost that weight, that 220 pounds, I lost that weight 6 years ago. And there is never, and I mean never, Kim, never a time that I ever think I'm not going to have something. I do not diet. I don't have good days. I don't have bad days. I used to have all that. Every day would be either a good day or a bad day. And if it's a bad day, you have this big binge, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's pizza all over the floor, and your hands are all orange from cheese twists and cupcake wrappers. And you have these bad days, and then you wake up in the morning and you say, okay, I'm going to try again. It's going to be a good day. I never have good days or bad days. I never think about the issues done, and that's because the fat programs are no longer on. Now, in my book, The Gabriel Method, I talk about 12 or 13 different types of physical, mental, and emotional stresses that cause the same chemistry as the fat programs, as a famine, and that trick your body into activating the fat programs.